This is high cow country. This is summer grazing country, some of the best in the West. This is the country of big beef herds and vast ranches. It is the native ground of the cattle industry. When winter snows retreat to the peaks and streams run bank full, there's new life in the cattle business. The warming rays of the spring sun are a portent of a delightful summer on the range. It's like a pleasant dream for this white-faced, ruddy-coated youngster. And every calf has its own mobile lunch stand never far away. The trick is to get it. While certain breeds of cattle predominate in this country, any desirable beef-type animals that fit the environment find their place in the cattle industry. Cattle which have enjoyed the brisk summer in the high range country now have the hardihood to withstand the crackling cold of winter. Winter or summer, the cattleman never relaxes his vigilance. Every season of the year brings special chores, and a little extra care now may bring extra dividends later on. When spring brings its welcome green grass, lush from the moisture of winter snows, another cycle of growth begins, for grass is basic cattle feed. The animals harvest it themselves and convert the nutrients and vitamins into generous frames as they grow, frames that will carry the forthcoming load of meat. Living proof of the value of good breeding is this fine youngster. She owes her heritage of excellence to a proved sire, whose ability to transmit his quality to his offspring is established. Much of the responsibility for herd quality rests on the range bull. He contributes importantly to the production of superior offspring, of profit-making capabilities. On more than 3.5 million farms and ranches, ranging from a few acres to many thousands, the spirit of the Old West comes alive. The cowboy and his horse once more live the busy pattern of cattle care that early summer brings. Each animal is a valuable unit that merits comparable care and receives individual attention through the trained eyes of the cattleman. Spraying is an annual chore that prevents harassment of the cattle by insect pests and parasites. The sprayer is usually a mobile type that can be taken to any place on the ranch. Dipping the animals accomplishes the same purpose as spraying. Inoculation prevents diseases that at one time seriously crippled cattle profits. The old branding iron is still with us, but a newfangled heater has replaced the old campfire. There is no doubt now that this young fellow in the squeeze chute belongs to the K-Bar-K. And now this young stuff is headed for the high range country, where they will spend the summer just growing. In the fall of the year, when the eager fingers of the early frosts paint the aspens in the high country in vivid colors, it's roundup time. Each canyon and draw, each willow-fringed creek bottom gives up its complement of bovine residents. Spindly-legged calves no longer, they are much larger, deep in body and well-fleshed from an undisturbed summer on range grasses, almost suggesting a ghostly symbol of the herds of the old Chisholm Trail. An ever-growing stream of cattle are headed in a single direction, to market. The whole vast West becomes one big dusty roundup. Quality begins on the ranch. Superior cattle and careful scientific handling combine to make today's beef animal a unit of measured value of real proportions. Where the cattle drive of the Old West saw almost half of the value of the herd vanish during the long trek, today's short drive to a nearby railhead results in little or no shrinkage. Ready to move at dawn, the herd is fed and rested in a holding pasture for the night. When the first crimson rays of the rising sun tint the eastern sky, men, horses, and cattle are on the move. Destination, the railroad. In the half-light of early dawn, a frosty tang is in the air, and the grass crackles underfoot as the herd moves on. The air is filled with the shouts of the cowhands and the muted lowing of steaming cattle. In any trailing of cattle, the welfare of the animals comes first. Rather than driving cattle on a helter-skelter basis, most cattlemen prefer to lead the herd, and once on the move, the animals remain docile and tractable. To those familiar with it, a feeling of ritual accompanies the movement of the cattle, a ritualistic surge back to the old days when a cattle drive was not just a commercial enterprise, but was a moving page of Western history, written in the dust stirred by thousands of hoofs. Arrival at the railroad stockyards is the signal for activity of a different nature. In this case, where the cattle are sold to a buyer at the shipping pens, they must be recounted and weighed to determine the total due the rancher. Gentle handling to avoid bruising and damage is still the order of the day, as the cattle are directed through the pens and loading chutes into the waiting stock cars. It takes real know-how, too, for the railroad to have the necessary cars on hand at the right place at the right time. Cattle shipments can't wait. On the Great Plains, the promise of approaching winter spurs this cattle loading operation. Here, the entire herd will be loaded at one time and transported to market as a single expedited shipment. The moment that the last steer is loaded, the train is ready to move. Long years of experience in serving Western cattlemen have made Union Pacific an unexcelled mover of cattle to market centers. Livestock trains operating on fast schedules supply efficient transportation at a time when hours may mean profits. Cattle marketing centers are strategically located, and Omaha serves a large western area. Its holding pens have handled more than 100 million cattle since its founding over 80 years ago. And here's our livestock train, right on schedule. Early morning arrival. First, the cattle must be penned, watered, fed, and rested. Simple steps in an otherwise intricate pattern of procedure. On the way to becoming quality beef, the cattle will be sold at auction to feedlot operators who specialize in finishing off top-grade animals. After being grouped and weighed, they are driven to the auction floor.
and about a quarter and a half and about a half and about a half and thank you. Now 75 and 25, thank you. Now quarter. Yeah, 25 and a quarter and a half and about a half and a half. Yeah, 50 now 60 now 5 60 minimum 60 70 minimum 5 70 80 minimum 580 there. Yeah, 25 70 minimum 580. Yeah, 75 and 85 and about 90 minimum 590 minimum.
And so it goes in the interesting process of selling cattle to feedlot operators. An extensive empire of feeding pens introduces the steers to a new life, far from the wide open spaces. A life where one day runs into another, marked only by a plentiful supply of water and the delight of appetizing high-protein feeds. A cattle feeding complex like this vast layout can be compared to a factory production line with the end product being beef. And each animal is a small factory in itself, turning raw materials into a highly esteemed finished product for human consumption. Integrated with the feedlot is the mill, where specialized diets are formulated and mixed. The subject of animal nutrition has won the attention of some of the best research brains in the country, and vast new areas of nutritional science are being opened. The controls exercised by the laboratory will be reflected in the quantity and quality of beef produced in the feedlot. The cattle industry has welcomed new nutritional developments that lead to improved quality beef and an opportunity for better profits. The need for mechanized methods of production and automatic feeding attracted the attention of agricultural engineers and inventors who have increased feeding efficiency while decreasing costs. More efficient methods result in delivering the feed to the cattle in measured quantity at the proper time, another important step in the production of good beef. Fence line trough feeding provides a uniform feeding method and prevents waste. There's a place at the table for every animal to eat in undisturbed comfort. With various kinds of grain stored in glass-lined steel silos, this completely automated, centralized feeding layout is the culmination of a dream, where through push-button control, stored feeds are ground, mixed and transported to the cattle feeding troughs by an auger system. This operation typifies the efforts of feedlot operators to provide better feed at lower cost. Although many processing plants are located near metropolitan areas of consumption, there is a growing trend to locate plants in areas of supply. To ensure quality for the benefit of the consumer, federal inspectors examine and certify each carcass at the packing plant. Beef, like other meats, varies some in quality. Inspection and identification ensures that each carcass is placed in the proper grade. By this means, when the purchaser buys choice beef, he gets choice beef. And if a lesser quality is satisfactory, it is so identified. Grading is based on the qualification of the entire carcass, and labeling is done in such a way that each cut will bear the mark of the grade. This mark is the consumer's guarantee of wholesomeness and quality. Possibly no one has done a better job to cater to the consumer's taste and demands than the packing industry. Consistency of quality, convenience features, and emphasis on tenderness are paramount points followed meticulously by the packing industry. The history of meat packing is a story of steady advancement from its very beginning. Marked progress in the industry results from improvements in mechanization, advances in refrigeration, and important developments in refrigerated transportation. In spotless, temperature-controlled, mechanical refrigerated railroad cars, wholesale cuts of meat, halves, quarters, and special cuts are transported from packer to retailer. Distance is of no concern. Today, a pound of meat travels an average of 1,000 miles from the open plains to the kitchen range. To provide more flexible service to the retailer, specially built refrigerated trailer vans are equipped to handle meat and are an important factor in fast, modern transportation. The flexibility of the trailer van at points of origin and delivery is supplemented by the dependability of the railroad for the major haul and represents a real improvement in an expedited refrigerated transportation service. A large number of these mechanically refrigerated trailer vans augments Union Pacific's fleet of thousands of refrigerated railroad cars, operating under the banner of the Pacific Fruit Express, the acme of dependability in refrigerated transportation. The last link in the chain of production is the retailer. On his knowledge of cutting rests much of the success of the meat business. Basic cuts from a hind quarter of beef are the flank, the sirloin tip, the loin, and the round. Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. In his way, the meat cutter is an artist. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality. From the sirloin tip, we get popular cuts of meat. Attached to the flank is the suet, a byproduct. From this end of the carcass comes stew meat and ground beef, both good American family standbys. While choice cuts of meat are more publicized, the secondary cuts are just as nutritious, and in the hands of a good cook, any beef is capable of producing gastronomic miracles. In the loin are the top cuts, the porterhouse, T-bone, and sirloin. The forequarter contains less glamorous meat, and this fact is reflected in the price. The basic cuts are the chuck, the shank, the brisket, the plate, and the rib. Of all meats, none excels beef for versatility, both as to character of meat and adaptability in a variety of types of cooking the world over. And nothing excels beef for its individual flavor and its ability to transmit this flavor to a wide range of related dishes. Is there anything that meets with more popular favor than rich beef gravy on fluffy mashed potatoes? Now, the rib and the plate are removed. From the shank come soup bones and crosscuts that may range from the making of virile soups to delicate consommes. Next comes the brisket. And if your palate doesn't call for corned beef and cabbage, maybe you'd prefer a pastrami sandwich. From the plate comes America's favorite, short ribs of beef. And the rib section gives us the highly regarded standing rib roast. The chuck is a massive piece of meat and produces steaks, stew, or ground beef, and a variety of lower-priced roasts, such as the popular arm pot roasts and boneless chuck roasts. All the roasts are noted for fine flavor and are best cooked by moist heat. It takes long cooking to bring out the excellent flavor and good texture. In any discussion of steaks, The sirloin is always near the top of the list in a wide variety of tender, succulent beef. To most Americans, a choice steak is a symbol of good living, and rightly so. However, a steer isn't all steak or even all meat. A 1,000-pound steer will dress out a carcass weighing about 590 pounds. When this is cut up, there will be approximately 465 pounds of available meat of all kinds, less than half of the original weight of the steer. Here's another American favorite, lean, juicy round steak, rich in protein and nourishment. Some people enjoy round steak broiled, but many housewives prefer to prepare it as Swiss steak. The round also makes top ground beef. Modern meat merchandising involves individual packaging of individual cuts in a transparent wrap. By this type of packaging, high standards of sanitation are maintained and counter life is increased. Each package is weighed and priced accordingly. While meat is a basic item in our daily diet, it does face some competition from other food lines. Eye appeal is an important factor in selling more meat. The attractive refrigerated display case filled with packages of rich red meat encourages the prospective purchaser to buy meat and enables selection to be made easily and quickly. The housewife likes the freedom of wide choice, and she gets exactly what she wants. Although meat is perhaps the most popular form of protein in the average diet in this country, meat interests do not depend on this popularity alone to sell meat. Retailers, wholesalers, packers, cattle associations, and the American Meat Institute are continually carrying on advertising, promotional and educational campaigns designed to increase our consumption of meat in general and beef particularly. One state is proud of its heritage as the beef state and isn't bashful about promoting its leading product. There is an old saying that youth will be served, and certainly one good way to win youthful approval is to have a hamburger barbecue. Juicy broiled hamburgers with just the right touch of charcoal flavor from the fire have become an American institution. Even the appetizing process of broiling the hamburgers is fun and promotes friendship and good fellowship. Just the elegant aroma of that ground beef picking up added flavor from the fire is enough to give everybody the firm idea that it's time to eat. And of course, the best part is in the eating, with compliments for the cook for a job well done. Plus going back for seconds, which turns out to be as much fun as going for firsts. An old sourdough steak barbecuer may work with a little more flair, and the character of the meat may be different, but the basic elements are the same. And Father enjoys making like a cook in his own backyard, particularly with some premium sirloin like these entrancing pieces of meat, cut specially thick for those aficionados who like their meat rare. Genius at work is right, and it's nice work if you can get it. All the guests agree, too. The moment of truth comes when the stakes are turned, because once turned, there's no turning back. No dinner bell is needed to call this chow line into action, and it's quite a strain on masculine discipline to observe the rule of ladies first. Anticipation, in this case, cannot possibly be greater than realization. Just leave it up to the chef. He knows when he's got a good thing. Beef really does ring the bell.